You know, back in the day, vast swaths of eastern U.S. forests were burned to the ground for literally one single reason: to make potash fertilizer. Our ancestors actually knew something about the ash left behind in their hearths that a lot of us have just completely forgotten. There is a hidden, highly potent power sitting right there in our modern fireplace waste, and today, we're going to figure out exactly how to tap into it.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're uncovering the real truth about wood ash. We're going to dive right into the science and answer a pretty pressing question for anyone with a green thumb. Is that gray powder sitting in your fireplace a sustainable, nutrient-packed hero for your soil? Or is it just a fast track to an absolute gardening disaster? Let's find out.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, the power of wood ash. Second, matching soil and plants. Third, safe application techniques. Fourth, environmental impact and sourcing. Fifth, troubleshooting common ash problems. And sixth, our final takeaways and cautions.
Section 1. The power of wood ash, nature's fast-acting fertilizer.
So, what exactly remains when a log burns in your fireplace? Well, when the carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur literally burn away as gases, what you're left with is basically a mineral skeleton. And it turns out, if you're burning hardwoods like oak or eucalyptus, you're getting significantly more ash and a much higher percentage of nutrients than you would from softwoods like pine. Because this ash comes from plant material, it actually holds on to most of the 13 essential nutrients your soil needs to supply for plant growth. As a fertilizer, its NPK profile, that's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, sits at roughly 0.13. You'll notice that 0 right up front, right? There is absolutely no nitrogen left after a fire. But there is plenty of potassium, which is fantastic for encouraging your plants to flower and fruit.
When we break down the chemical composition, you'll see that a massive chunk of wood ash, about 45%, is calcium carbonate equivalent. Potassium makes up about 6%, phosphorus is 2%, and the remaining 47% is a mix of other trace minerals. Because of that incredibly high calcium content, ash acts exactly like agricultural lime. Its main job is to aggressively and rapidly raise your soil's pH. And because the particle size is just so incredibly fine, it neutralizes acid soils much faster than commercial limestone does.
Section 2. Matching soil and plants, the guardrails of growth.
Because ash neutralizes acidity with so much power, you really can't just go dumping it everywhere in your garden. Think of it as a highly specific tool, not some universal multivitamin. Contrast is absolutely everything here. Some plants practically beg for the alkaline boost that ash gives. Brassicas like cabbage thrive with it, so much so that the alkaline shift actually prevents a really common disease called clubroot. Asparagus and tomatoes love it too. But, and this is a massive but, you have to keep ash far away from acid-loving plants. If you toss this stuff on your blueberries, rhododendrons, or potatoes, you are going to ruin your crop. For potatoes specifically, making the soil more alkaline actually encourages a nasty disease known as potato scab.
Now this number right here, 6.0 to 6.5, is absolutely crucial. This is the sweet spot pH range for the vast majority of general garden plants. Before you even consider adding a scoop of ash, you absolutely have to know where your soil currently stands. If your soil is already sitting at a 7.0 or higher, meaning it's neutral or alkaline, you need to find another way to dispose of that ash. Adding more is just going to push your soil straight into a toxic zone for your plants.
Section 3. Safe Application Techniques, our step-by-step action plan.
Assuming your soil actually does need a boost, here's your step-by-step action plan to apply ash safely without shocking your plants or your soil microbiome. Number 1, always start with a soil test. Seriously, every single time. Once you confirm you need it, step 2 is to sift out any of those large, unburnt chunks of charcoal. Step 3, measure it out. A really good rule of thumb for slightly acidic soil is about 15 to 20 pounds of ash for every 1,000 square feet. Keep in mind, because the calcium carbonate equivalent of ash is lower than pure lime, you're going to need about 2 to 4 times as much ash to match the liming power of commercial limestone. And finally, step 4, work it directly 2 to 4 inches into the topsoil. You want to do this a few weeks before planting, and mixing it in ensures it doesn't just blow away in the wind.
Section 4. Environmental impact in sourcing, from waste to resource.
Now, this whole concept goes way beyond our backyard gardens. To put this into perspective, the U.S. paper and wood industries produce roughly 3 million tons of wood ash every single year. Just looking at a place like Wisconsin gives us a great example of how this can be managed.
In Wisconsin, natural limestone deposits are clustered in specific areas, leaving the northern part of the state with basically zero natural limestone. But commercial wood-burning facilities are heavily clustered in that exact same northern region. So by recycling that industrial ash and spreading it on agricultural fields instead of dumping it in landfills, farmers up north save millions of dollars. They don't have to truck in expensive limestone anymore. It takes a pricey industrial waste problem and flips it into a brilliant, highly localized agricultural resource. But whether you're running a massive commercial farm or just scooping ash from your living room fireplace, the rules for sourcing that ash are strict. It is absolutely critical that you only burn pure, raw, natural wood. Never, ever use ash from pressure-treated timber, painted wood, cardboard, or charcoal briquettes. Why? Because treated timber and garbage are loaded with toxic heavy metals like lead, cadmium, nickel, and chromium. If you burn that stuff, those metals go directly into your soil and ultimately right into the food you're growing.
Section 5. Troubleshooting common ash problems, avoiding garden disasters. Okay, so even with the absolute purest wood ash, things can still go sideways. Let's run through a few rapid-fire troubleshooting tips so you can avoid a garden disaster. First off, ash is super dusty and caustic. Always wear a mask and gloves, and lightly moisten the soil first so the ash actually sticks and doesn't blow back into your eyes. Second, keep it strictly away from germinating seeds. Ash has a really high salt content that will severely damage them. Third, and please don't skip this one, never mix wood ash with nitrogen fertilizers like urea or ammonium sulfate. The high pH of the ash reacts with the nitrogen and literally creates toxic ammonia gas. Yikes. On a much brighter note, though, you can use a ring of ash around your mature plants. The sharp particles make a fantastic physical barrier to deter soft-body pests like slugs and snails. Section 6. Final takeaways and cautions. The Golden Rule. We've covered the rich history, the environmental chemistry behind it all, and exactly how to physically apply it to your garden. So what is the single most important takeaway from this entire explainer? Never apply without a soil test. Because wood ash works so fast and powerfully to raise pH, flying blind can easily push your soil way over that 7.0 mark. And when soil becomes too alkaline, it physically locks up vital trace nutrients, things like iron, magnesium, and zinc. Those nutrients might be sitting right there in the dirt, but the high pH makes them chemically unavailable to the plant. It's like putting a padlock on their food supply, which will completely ruin your garden's productivity.
So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Consult a local agricultural extension or gardening expert. Just get that simple soil test done, and once you know your numbers, ask yourself, how will you use this forgotten, nutrient-rich winter resource to sustainably transform your garden this summer?